Hello, am I audible? Hello.
You're audible.
Okay, let's wait for 5 more minutes for other people to join, then we'll start, okay?
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, so let's start now. Please stop sharing the screen. Sachin. Yeah. So let's take your doubt first. Any doubt anyone has or any question? Any doubts? Okay, so if you don't have doubts, then we'll just do a quick summary of the concepts we learned and then we'll solve some questions, okay? Okay, is my screen visible?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So, see, first week there wasn't much to discuss, right? It was mainly about variables, iterators, and then we came on to flowcharts. So, let's still do a quick summary of that. What is an, okay, can anyone tell me what is an iteration? What's an iteration? Try.
It is a way of counting a card over like a loop, like or a table.
Right. So, in iteration, what exactly happens? Let's not take this example. Iteration can be in any program, right? What does an iteration do?
Ma'am, repetition of specific group of code.
Correct. So iteration means we just loop over the same code, right? Until some base condition is satisfied. That okay, like in our cards data set, what was the condition that as soon as the pile one gets empty, we stop the iteration, right? So every iteration or every loop will have some base condition that will ensure that it stops at some point, right? So iterated is what? It is the most commonly used pattern in computational thinking because throughout this course, you will see since we are using certain data sets, so we'll always be using a pile of cards. Like till the end of the course, there are data sets like your scores, shopping bills, trains. Trains data set will come in the final weeks. Okay. So all of these, like whatever we are going to learn next, we are going to discuss the concept of lists, dictionaries, everything. This iterator part will be constant because we will always need to repeat the same bit of code for all the cards in the table. Mostly in all the codes, this part will be common. Okay. So it represents what, like you said, the procedure of doing some task repeatedly. So it is just a repetition, basically. So it requires what are the steps that you need to follow if you want to perform an iteration on some data set. So first you need an initialization step. Right. Next, the steps for the task that needs to be repeated and a way to determine when to stop the iteration. So what was our initialization step? Basically, it is that we have some cards in a pile, right? That is the first thing. That pile one, that is our first, like what we have. Then we have an initialization step like till the pile one is empty. So this is also the way that will determine when you will stop your iteration, right? And in the middle, we have the steps of code that we want to repeat for all the cards. So these are the three main steps of any iteration. Now, what are variables? Anyone wants to say what are variables?
Ma'am, they keep on changing and the column, they are in column values.
So can I introduce variables at any point in my pseudocode?
Yes, ma'am, you can introduce as soon as you need a new variable, you can introduce that.
Correct. So I can initialize a variable whenever I want and I can assign it any value I want, right? So variables, what do? They keep track of intermediate values. Now, why do we have these variables? Why are they called variables and not constants? Because variables can always change the value. Like we use this count variable in a lot of code, right? Now, this count variable, at every iteration, we saw that if some condition is satisfied, we are incrementing count by one. So count keeps on changing. So variables are always changing and we are always going to use them to store intermediate values. Like if I want to find number of boys who scored, let's say, the highest mark in mathematics, then this number of boys is going to be stored in the count variable, but until we reach that final value, all these intermediate values, like as we keep incrementing, they are also going to be stored in the variable, but at the end of execution, this count variable will store the correct information, right? So variables are given starting values at the initialization step. Like for example, that count variable, what did we always initialize it with whenever we want to count something?
Zero.
0, right? So always see, it is not always necessary that variables will be assigned a value at the initialization step. You can just introduce a variable. You probably don't want to assign anything to it yet. Okay. So it is not always necessary to initialize and assign a value. But mostly in our course, we'll see that variables will be assigned a value at their initialization. Okay. And at each repeated step, the variable values are updated. So you can increment the value, you can decrement the value. If I say, uh, initialize a variable at 100. Okay, and then at each step I'm decrementing the value by -1. Anything you can do with it. So variables are just keeping track of intermediate values, and then at the end of execution they'll be storing the result. So iterators variables done. Initialization and update of variables are done through assignment statements. Assignment statement, what is the symbol for assignment?
Equal to.
Single equal to.
This one or this one?
Single.
First
Single,
one, single.
right? What does this double equal to mean?
Equality.
Equivalent. What type of an operator is this? Like this is an assignment operator, the single equal to, what is double?
Binary.
Equality.
Operator.
It is a comparison operator. Okay. This is a comparison operator. So we use this to check whether the value of a variable is exactly equal to something. Like if I say if count equal to 5, then some block of code is there. So when will I run this block of code? When the value of stored in the count variable is exactly equal to 5, right? For that comparison, you use double equal to. And if you want to assign a variable a value, then you know single equal to. Okay, now flowcharts. These are actually an important part of quiz 1. So flowchart has what type of blocks are there? There is a terminal box, right? What are the terminal box? Start and end. And then we have the process symbol, which is a rectangle, a decision box. So decision box can have what type of outputs?
Yes or no?
Yes or no outputs, right? So it can go two ways. You ask some question in the decision box. If the condition or whatever statement you put in, if it is correct, then you go yes. If not, then you go no, right? So these are the only 3 types of boxes, and the arrow represents what? The flow of the program or the flow of the execution. Okay. So we saw that first we learned this flowcharts, right? And then from flowcharts we transition to pseudocode. Okay. So every step in the flowchart can be written in terms of pseudocode, except the terminals, right? We don't write terminals in pseudocode. We don't write end program, start program, right? Like here, iteration, see this example, iteration to systematically go through a set of items. So any set of cards I have, let's say, or any set of items random. So we have a pile 1. How do I go through it systematically? First I run, what is this called? This is a while loop. Okay. This entire thing comes under a while loop. So while loop, pile 1 has more cards. This is what? This is the terminal condition, right? This is the base case. Like this is the base condition, you can say. So whenever this condition is not satisfied, we know that the loop comes to an end. So is it possible that this condition, let's say there is some other condition here in place of this, okay. So if this condition is once, like it's invalid once, then is it possible to run that loop again?
Can you repeat?
No, ma'am.
I'm asking that let's say this, like here it is written, na, pile 1 has more cards. So like this, some condition is given here. Now, at one point, if this condition is broken, can you do further iterations of the loop?
No. No.
No, right? So this is a terminal condition. Okay. So this is, so you're all familiar with that until there are more cards in pile 1, we will, every time we enter the loop, we'll pick a card, we'll read that card, move it to a separate pile. Why do we move it to a separate pile? So that we don't repeat the same cards, right? And then you perform whatever updation you need to perform. So this is basic syntax for iteration. So can anyone tell me what is the difference between iteration and recursion?
Iteration and
Recursion.
iteration follows same steps for different values. It's a loop actually.
Right.
Recursion is the same. It calls repeatedly like.
So the
Recursion,
main
recursion does the procedures are repeated continuously with recursion, and
Correct.
and with the steps within a procedure are done repeatedly using iteration.
Right. So basically, you cannot. It is better not to use it in this way that the steps inside a recursion is iteration. Okay. Iteration is when we are running loops like this, like for
No, no,
loop,
no,
while
I
loop,
said
do
the
while loop.
steps in. I mean the steps inside the procedure.
Right. Inside the procedure, if there is a loop, then that is iteration. Okay. Now recursion happens when we do a recursive call. That means we call some procedure time and again. Okay. So recursion happens when a procedure is called within a procedure. That is a recursive call means, let's say I called some procedure X with some argument. Now inside that procedure, I am again calling the procedure X only. So this will do what? Let's say there is some line of code and then I am calling, let's say inside a variable A, I called procedure X with some argument. Okay. Now as soon as I call this, as soon as the execution reaches this line, it will go to the definition of where this procedure is defined, correct? So let's say this is the definition of the procedure. There is some line of code given here. So as it reaches this definition, then it will work through all the steps with whatever parameter you have given here. Then inside this procedure, if there is one more call of the same procedure, okay, with some other parameter, let's say, then this is called a recursive call. That is a function call within a function call, or a procedure call within a procedure call. So when will this end? This looks like this will go on forever, right? So there has to be some base condition. So when that base condition is satisfied, then we are going to end this. There is a base case. For example, if I have the factorial problem, right? The factorial program. Are you familiar with what is a factorial? Everyone?
2
If I
factorial, 1 into
Yes,
2,
ma'am.
like that, ma'am.
if I write n factorial, it means this n into n minus 1 dot 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 up to 1, right? This is factorial. Now this, if I want to find the factorial of any number, okay, I can do it in two different ways. I can do it using iteration. How can I do it using iteration? So what will be my condition if I
By
want to do
reducing
this?
n minus 1.
Right. By reducing n by 1 every time, right? Decrementing the value of n by 1 every time we enter the loop. So by this, I can do this by iteration. Now, if I want to do this same process by recursion, so what will be my base case? When should the procedure stop? When does a factorial stop? When we reach 1, right? So till we reach 1, we need to call this again and again. So base case in case of recursions should be what? That 0 factorial is 1, right? So as soon as the value of n goes to 0, okay, then do I need to do this again? Because if I decrement n anymore, now it will go into negative, right? So this will be your base condition, that if n reaches 0, then you are done. Okay. So basic difference, if anyone asks, between recursion and iteration is that recursion has a base case and it is a procedure call inside a procedure call. That is, a procedure is calling itself. Okay. And iteration is what? It has some terminal condition, it has some initialization steps, and the same block of code is like on a loop, repeated again and again. Clear? See, we haven't done that many problems on recursion or anything. It's just a concept. Okay. For now, you're just learning this much is enough. What is sanity of data? Just give a small example, anyone, of what is sanity of data.
Correctness.
Sorry?
Correctness.
The values of the
Correctness.
data types must have must be within a range, and it should.
Like, let's say, yeah, you're correct. Let's say if I have integer a, okay, I defined a variable a and I gave it the data type integer. Inside this a variable, if I want to store this, is this correct? Is this the same data?
No, ma'am.
Right.
No, ma'am.
So in sanity of data means that whatever is the data type of a variable or an item, then that variable should contain only that type of data. So if a variable is of integer type, it cannot store string type of data. Similarly, if it is of character type, it cannot store integer type of data, right? This is sanity of data. Again, more examples of sanity is like uh, in that shopping bills data set. Let's say you are given a chart, okay, where it is given that a person bought n number of items. He bought every item, like the quantity of the items is given, the price of each item is given. So you also have to check that if I see that the person bought some item X in quantity 5, where the price of each quantity is 10, but the total price is given as 100, then is it correct data? Like I have item X, quantity 5, price per quantity is 10. Okay. Then total is given as 100. Is this correct data?
Ma'am.
No, right? Because it
Yes.
should be 50.
I am.
This is also,
Yeah.
right, this is also making sanity of data invalid. So this type of questions might come, that a chart of data is given to you and we ask that what are the steps where you can find that the data is, it is not a send data. Okay, then you have to take care of all these things too, not only data type. Okay, these things also you have to check. So what are the basic data types we learned? Integer, character, string, boolean, right? You don't have to remember the range. Okay. What is difference between character and string? Anyone?
A single letter character, string a collection of letters.
Okay.
Single quotes. It's
Right, single quotes. Yes. String needs single quotes.
of course.
And can string store special characters?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What type of data does Boolean variable store? What is the range of Boolean?
1 and 0, true and false.
Only true and false, right?
Yes,
So
ma'am.
Boolean, integer, character, string, these are the basic data types. Subtype we already discussed. What is a subtype? Like date can be a subtype. Like these are not actual data types but derived. Okay, from the data you also can derive some subtypes. Lists and records are what? Two ways of creating bigger bundles of data. So next week when we'll start week 5, we'll discuss lists. Okay, this is a very important concept in CT. So these are just ways of creating bigger bundles of data. So like if you're given that whole chart, like I said, in the shopping bills data set, just look at that. So there are all these rows of data. Each of these rows are what? Records. Okay, they are storing records for a particular item. In a list, all data items typically have the same data type. So this is one thing that will be clearer when we do week 5. So list is a type of, you can say, container for data. Okay. But in a list, there is some regulations. Like a list contains typically same type of data. Okay. That is all integer type, all character type, like this. So when we next learn about dictionaries, we'll see that that is more, what can I say, more flexible, but there are also other bounds placed on a dictionary. So whereas a record has multiple named fields, each name can be of a different data types. So lists and records are mainly what we saw are the two ways of storing data. Okay. But these concepts will be clearer in the further weeks. So you'll actually see that dictionary is okay. I can give just a one line of what is a dictionary and what is a list. So a list looks like this. Okay. This is how we initialize a list with third brackets. Now inside this, you can store items. Okay. But usually of the same data type. In a dictionary, the pattern is more like curly braces are there. Okay. And there is a key value pair. So this thing you don't need to remember now. I'm just giving a brief intro. So like if there is a key K, then there will be some value associated with that key. Now keys are always unique. If there are 5 key value pairs, all 5 keys must be unique in a dictionary. Okay. Anyways, so this will come in week 6, week 7. So what is filtering? Now we learned about iterations. What is filtering?
Putting
According
some
to the
conditions.
conditions.
Some condition, right? That means to filter the data to get some finer information out. Like first, if I wanted to know what is the total number of boys in the scores data set. So what will be my code? Like this same thing. While file 1 has more cards. So pick a card, X. Then after I read the card, I move it to pile 2. Now, now my problem is that I want to find number of boys. So what should be the next line of code?
Uh, X student is equal to male, then count
Is
is
there a
equal to
field
count plus 1.
like let's do this in perspective of the scores dataset. So in scores dataset, is there a field which stores the gender? There is a field in the card, right, called gender.
Yes, ma'am.
So if I pick a card X, then I would write what? X dot gender, right? Then if I want to compare whether it is a male, what operator will I use?
Character
Sorry,
M.
what operator?
Double
M.
equal to double equal.
Character M.
Double equal to.
Oh,
Okay. See, this is a comparison operator now. So I want to compare the gender, that whether the gender of a card is male or not. So x dot gender equals to male. Okay. So if this is male, then I'm going to, let's say I have a variable count. So count equals to count plus 1. Simple code. Okay. At the end of execution, you're going to get the value of count will be what? The number of boys in class. Correct? Now, if
yes,
I,
ma'am.
in this same code, if I want to find number of boys and, okay, we are doing filtering, right? So let's say number of boys and city is Kolkata. Now this is filtering, right? We have this set of cards which I know now are that this is the count of cards which belong to boys. Now if I put one more condition in it, it is going to give me fewer number of cards now, right? Because now I put a filter on it. So just by adding this condition, what changes do I need to make in my code, in this code?
If conditions and uh, city
So
equal to
here in,
Kolkata.
right, so here
And
only in this,
yes,
if
ma'am.
I can make that, I can just add an and x dot city equals to Kolkata. So now it has to go through two filters. One is for gender, one is for city, right? So filtering is this, right? Everyone, it is clear for everyone.
Yes, ma'am.
So this introduces what? A decision step within the iteration loop. Basically, it puts a condition. Conditions, why is it called a decision step? Because in terms of flowchart, if we see, conditions are always placed in the decision box, right? So it is a decision step within an iteration. Now, iteration with filtering, this is just the same thing which I wrote earlier. So expressed in pseudocode, it would look like this, the thing that we just saw with the other, that boys from Kolkata, that example. These are all same things. Okay, yeah, this thing. So the filtering condition can compare the item values with a constant. So in our example that we just did, the initial example that I want to find the number of cards that belong to boys. What was the constant in the condition? In this code.
Count.
Yeah. Here, what was the
Count.
constant?
Count.
Is count a constant?
No.
Count is a variable. So there is some
Yes.
constant in the condition. What is the constant? Forget about Kolkata. Let's just say I want to find number of boys. Then this was the condition. So here, what is the constant?
M.
M is the
Male.
constant. Right. So whatever
Male.
remains same. Okay. Whatever remains same for every iteration, that is the constant. Count cannot be a constant. After every iteration, count has a chance of updating if it is a male card. It is a variable. Right. But for
Okay,
every
ma'am.
card, we are going to check what? That whether that card belongs to a male or not. So this male remains constant. So male is your constant for this filtering. Okay. Just a second. Huh? One second. I'm audible, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So see, the filtering condition does not change after each iteration step. So for every iteration, that gender equals to male, that equals to male, that comparison, that step will remain constant. Okay. Now, one more thing. Yeah, procedures. So procedure, what are, who can describe, like what is a procedure and how do we use them? Anyone can
Procedures,
describe?
procedures is like a coding which is like a function which is prepared. Just we need to add the parameters to it to
Right.
see the results.
So procedure is nothing but a block of code, right? It is just a block of code. I need to name a procedure something, right? All procedures need some name. Otherwise, I cannot call that procedure. Whenever I have a procedure, there should be a definition. Definition of procedure. So when I define a procedure, is there any particular parameter? In the
Ma'am, yes.
definition, is there,
You have to like what are the variables you are looking, you have to name them in proper order.
right? But let's say I just define the procedure X. Okay, like I'm just defining in this block of code what this procedure does. So I place some parameter here. But is that an actual parameter or it is just to define what it will do?
Just define, ma'am.
It is just to
Argument is
define.
the yes, ma'am. Arguments is the one which plays the role.
So when we call a procedure, right, then we give the user input in place of the parameter, right? That argument will be then applied in the definition of the procedure. So now wherever this procedure, in this procedure, wherever you use the parameter in the definition, in those places, you will now use whatever parameter or whatever argument you want to put, right? And in a, let's now say you called a procedure, okay. Now that procedure might or might not return something. Is this true or does a procedure has to return something?
It has to return
Should
something.
it should return, ma'am.
Always.
Yes.
Always.
So you can go back to that lecture. Okay, I don't remember which week I taught this, but all procedures do not need to return something. Okay. There will be some procedures where we just want to perform, let's say, an update of a variable. Maybe I want to increase the marks of all boys by 5 marks in math. So instead of running a loop and instead of doing this again and again, I just call a procedure and I pass the card as parameter. Okay. Now in that procedure, what will be the code? What will the code look like? So if, let's say, I passed some card A. So if A dot gender is equal to male, then A dot maths, that is maths marks, is equal to A dot maths plus 5. Done. So at the end of this procedure, his marks has been increased. But is this procedure returning anything? Do you see a return statement?
No,
Ma'am.
ma'am.
So not every procedure will return something. Okay. Some procedures are just used to update values or delete some value, whatever you want to do. But you don't want to get anything back. Okay. Not always. So procedure might or might not return something. Now, if it returns something, if a procedure returns something, then in the call, what is mandatory?
The
Whatever the
Parameter.
procedure, yeah.
argument.
So if the procedure returns something, where do you store it?
We will store it in a variable which is outside the procedure.
Outside the procedure. So where is that variable? Where you are calling the procedure, right? Like if I want to call this X procedure, I have some Y variable. Inside this, I will call X with whatever parameter I want. And whatever this X returns will be stored in Y only. Now, if a procedure doesn't return anything like this procedure, then you don't have to store it in a variable. You can just randomly write x with this parameter and just call the function. It will change the values or whatever you want to do, and it doesn't have to return anything, so there is no need to waste extra storage, right? So two types of things can be there. You can do a procedure call like this, or you can call a procedure inside a variable so that whatever it returns gets stored in the variable. Clear? Any question?
So, if we do not want to return any of the, no need to return, then no need to write the name of the function, name of the procedure. Just we can write
You can just write the name of the procedure and the parameter that you want to pass. You don't have to write it like you don't have to assign it to a variable like I did here, because we only assign so that the return value will be stored somewhere. If it doesn't return anything, you can just just normally call the procedure like this.
okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, that's why we have an assignment operator here, so that whatever return value is there, we can assign it to this variable. Any
Okay,
other
ma'am.
question from this part?
I'm like, I don't know what's the difference between a parameter and an argument.
See, they are basically the same thing. If you want to understand in this way, let's say when I define a procedure, okay, then whatever I am using in the brackets for that time, let's call it a parameter, okay. And whenever you're calling that same procedure, oh, 1 second, I'm getting a call. Yeah. So whenever I am defining the procedure, like here, this X procedure is defined here, okay. This parameter that I'm passing, this is a parameter. Look, if I say X, A, and then I define the procedure here. Okay, this is just the definition, not the call. This A is the parameter. Okay, now if outside of this definition in the actual program where I'm calling this procedure, like inside, let's say this procedure returns something, I want to store that return value in Y, so I am assigning it. Okay, so Y equals to X. Now here, if you want whatever value you want to pass in place of that parameter is an argument. They're basically the same thing. Just parameter is when we write the definition, we call it a parameter. And when we actually pass the values that we want to pass in this function, in this procedure, those are called arguments. Clear?
Okay, ma'am. Okay.
So in the call, in the actual function call, this is an argument. And in the definition, it's a parameter. Okay, what else? These are all same things. Now nested iterations. You also know this. Or like doing two iterations, one after another. That also we can have. Right? The first iteration to do some accumulation. Variables in which these accumulations are done are called accumulators. Okay. So we have seen programs where there are more than one iteration present, right? It is possible?
Ma'am, pair of students.
Right. See here it is given find above average students. Average is an accumulator from the first iteration. Okay. So first iteration is doing something, and then based on the result of that, I am doing another iteration next. Okay. We have seen this in the average program where we want to find the average marks scored by students. So you first find that. Okay. Let's say I first find the average. And then I want to know how many students scored that average. Then I am going to use that average value in the next iteration and again run through the entire data set. Right. Kind of like this. See, if I have a procedure called average, no, not a procedure. Okay, we can name it as a procedure, no problem. Average. And we pass this pile one of cards in it. Okay. So if this has two iterations, let's say the first iteration is what? While pile one is not empty. Okay. So we pick a card X, read that, then move to pile 2. This loop, this first iteration, I want to, what is my actual goal? Number of students who have scored, let's say above average. Okay, this is my goal. I want to do it using 2 iterations. So to know who have scored above average, I first need to know what is the class average, right? So how will I find out what is the class average? I have to go through the entire data set, and let's say I have a variable count. So every time I pick a card, I will increment count by how much?
1.
1. And there is a variable sum in which I'm storing their total marks. So sum equals to sum plus total. Okay. This is the first iteration. So at the end of first iteration, now I can have a variable average. How can I find the average? At the end of this iteration, what is count storing?
The students and some the marks of the students. So sum by total.
So sum by
Sum
count if I do.
Count. Yes, ma'am.
So total sum of scores of all students and the number of students in my class, right? So sum by count will give me the average. Now using this average, now all my cards are in which pile at the end of this execution of the first iteration? In pile 2, because every time I read a card, I moved it to pile 2. So now pile 2 has all the cards. So next iteration when I write, I will use pile 2. So while pile 2 is not empty, what will I do? Now I want to find, remember the goal is to find number of students who have scored above average. So now again, pick a card X. Okay. Move it to some other pile. Let's say move it to pile 3. If X dot total is greater than average, where is this average coming from? From the result of the first iteration, right? Then again, let's say another variable count 1 is equal to count 1 plus 1. This is inside an if, then you can end the procedure. So at the end of this next iteration, this count 1 variable will give me the actual result, number of students who have scored above average. Is this clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Others? Any confusion? Who are there? So no one has any confusion, right? In 2 iterations. These are not, okay. Are these nested? Can I say these are nested iterations?
No.
What is a nested iteration?
Parenthesis, inside parenthesis.
So an iteration within an iteration, right? So inside this while loop, if I called another while here, then this will be a nested iteration, right? These are not nested, these are individual. Okay. So
Ma'am, how
next
will these
when
be nested iterations?
see nested iteration is like when I wrote this first iteration, right? While pile 1 is not empty. So let's say I want to compare the marks of 2 students for every 2 students. So first I will write while, this is the outer while pile 1 not empty. Pick a card X. Now I want to compare the marks of 2 students. So at one time, how many cards do I need?
2.
2 cards. So can I pick 2 cards in one iteration? No. So I have to have one more iteration. Pick X, then move to pile 2. Now again, if you have one more iteration here. So again the same thing, while pile 1 not empty. Again, pick Y. Now here you can write a comparison statement if X dot total is equal to Y dot total. Okay. So to do this type of comparisons, we need a nested iteration. Understood? When I'm picking more than one item in an iteration and doing some comparison between them. So there is a while loop inside a while loop. This is a nested iteration. Clear?
So we do not Nested iterations for comparisons only.
Well, not always, but yeah, in the scope of this course, I mean, nested iterations have a lot of applications. Okay, not just this, not just comparison, but in the scope of what we have learned so far, you can think this way, that it is when I need to pick two items at one time. Okay, from the same pile, but I don't want duplicates. That's why after I pick X, I read it and I move it to a separate file so that I don't pick that X again in the nested iteration. Because I want two unique cards, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Clear now? This nested and normal two iterations, like one after another, and what is a nested iteration? That is iteration within iteration. Difference is clear for
So,
everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
yes, ma'am. Ma'am, so for the before example, that average students example, in that
Hmm.
average is the accumulator. Am I right, ma'am?
Average is the accumulator. Yes.
Okay, ma'am.
You can also think of count and sum as the accumulator because these are actually, I mean, average is actually the value that we got from sum and count, right? But who accumulated the values? Sum and count. They are the ones who are storing the values, right? Throughout this entire iteration. So instead of
Yes,
saying
ma'am.
average is the accumulator, you should say sum and count are the accumulators. Average is just the value we got from sum and count.
Not
Accumulator is
sum
what?
alone, sum and count. Am I right, ma'am?
Sum and count. Yes. See,
Okay,
accumulator
ma'am.
is anything that stores the values inside an iteration. Okay. That accumulates the values. Like all the cards you're counting, this count is getting stored in count variable, or the sum that you're counting. For every card, we are adding the sum. Where is this value getting accumulated? In sum variable. So at the end of execution, who are the two variables who are accumulating the values? Count and sum. Right. Now using that, you
Sum,
can find
count
average.
one, everything is accumulated, ma'am.
Yeah, here also, like in the second iteration, count one is the accumulator.
So
Okay.
whatever the variable that stores, that does, that stores something, that is the accumulator.
See,
Yes, ma'am. I said right, ma'am.
accumulator is this variables in which these accumulations are stored. So first iteration does some accumulation. Accumulation means what? Gathering stuff, right? Accumulating things. So we are doing
So,
accumulation, right? Right. We are storing number of people. So one by one, I'm increasing that count. One by one, I'm accumulating the values. Where I'm accumulating, these variables are accumulators. So in count, I'm accumulating, or in sum, I am storing the sum for every card. These are accumulators.
okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, average is not an accumulator. Average is just a value that we got. Average is assigned the value that we got by doing sum by count.
So count one is the accumulator, then average is not the accumulator. Am I right,
Average is
ma'am?
just a variable. Yes.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, these are also same. See, nested iteration, one within another. This is what I just showed you. So if we need to go beyond the relationship between an element and the aggregate of all elements. So if I want to, instead of, so in the previous example, what did we do? This is some kind of an aggregate, right? This average variable. This is some kind of an aggregate that we got after the first iteration. Using the accumulators in the first iteration, we found some aggregate called average. Now this variable we used in the second iteration. But what if I don't need this type of a comparison? What if I need to compare between two elements, like two cards, not between a card and a certain value like average? If you want to express a relationship between two elements of the same pile, okay, then we will do a nested iteration. Like I said, if I want to compare total marks of two students from pile one, then I need to pick two cards at once. So first outer iteration will pick one card. Now, once you get into the inner iteration, that is the inner while, you are going to compare that card with all other cards. Okay. Then again, when you go to the next iteration in the outer one, outer while, you'll pick the second card. And again, in the inner iteration, you're going to compare that second card with all other cards. Okay, this is how it goes. So we'll need to do one iteration within another. Like this is also a good example. Find out if two students have the same birthday. So you pick one student from the outer iteration and you compare his birthday with every other student in the inner iteration. Once that comparison is done, you move that first student to a pile two, a separate pile. Then again in the outer iteration, second iteration, you pick another student's card. Again in the inner iteration, you compare it with all other students. Right? This is how it goes. But nested iterations, you need to know they are actually costly in terms of comparisons. Okay. This is actually, if you learn algorithms or timing complexity, you will see that nested iterations have a higher timing complexity. Why this happens is because, see, if I have n cards, okay, in my pile 1, so outer while, this while, okay, where I'm picking the first card, and then inside there is one more while which has to compare for first card with all other cards, second card with all other cards. So how many times is the outer pile going to run? This outer while loop, how many times is it going to iterate? If I have n cards, n times. And for each of these, I have to do comparison with all other cards in here, right? So what is the worst case scenario? N cross n, this many number of comparisons. So when you learn about timing complexity going forward, you will see that there is something called a big O notation. Okay. So O of n square, this is a very high timing complexity. Okay, which comes with nested iterations. Anyways, you don't need to know this right now, but it's a bad complexity. Okay. That means it is costlier in terms of storage also, in terms of computation also. Okay. So now that we saw that so many number of comparisons are happening, now how can I lower this cost? So we discussed one concept called binning, right? What is binning? Anyone?
Web binning means grouping.
I didn't get to hear any one of you clearly. Would you like to
Grouping
try again?
on basis of certain parameters. Like
Grouping
grouping
on
on
basis of certain parameters.
yes.
So basically taking a big set of data and breaking it into similar chunks, right? Smaller chunks, but they have something in common, like maybe equal sized chunks. Like if I have 9 people, I can break them into groups of 3, 3, 3. Right? This type of breaking a bigger data set into smaller ones and then doing the comparisons, this can reduce the number of comparisons by a significant amount. Right? Like we saw what is the factor of reduction. How do you find that factor? If I was having, let's say 36, if I was having, let's say 64 comparisons without binning, and with binning, I am having 8 comparisons. What is the factor by which it is reduced? Sorry? See, this is the total number of comparisons without binning. Okay. For some random program, I'm saying this is the total number of comparisons without binning. But in that same dataset, if I use binning concept, then I need just 8 comparisons with binning. So based on these two data, what is the factor by which the number of comparisons are reduced?
Number of comparisons without binning by number of comparisons with binning.
With binning, correct. So 64 by 8. So 8 is a factor of reductions. That is, you have reduced the number of comparisons 8 times. Okay, these things you have to answer. Okay. Whatever is coming to mind, just say something. Don't stay quiet. Okay. So factor of reduction, if I want to find number of comparisons without binning by number of comparisons with binning. That is the factor. Clear? Remember that one slide I told you, that one slide where all the formulas were given in week 4. This factor formula is also there. Just go through that slide. Okay. So if you cannot remember the formula, there is no need to remember, I would say, because you can easily derive all those formula. But if you can't remember, please just go through that slide again and again before the exam. So now let's solve some questions. We have done a basic recap of everything. Anyone has any concept that they want to discuss again that you do not understand, or should we go to questions?
Uh, uh, Formula is n into n minus 1 by 2. Am I right, ma'am?
That is the formula for what? Number of comparisons. I am asking reduction factor here. Okay. N into n minus 1 by 2 is the correct formula if you want to find the number of comparisons that I need for n variables or n elements. Okay. But if I ask you what is the factor by which you have reduced the comparisons after binning, then the formula is what? Number of comparisons without binning by number of comparisons with binning.
Okay,
To
ma'am.
find those individual number of comparisons, you need to use that n into n minus 1 by 2 formula. Okay.
Thank you.
Ma'am?
Yeah.
I'd like to recap the concept when we distributed three prizes
Three
according to
prizes.
consider.
Okay. So 3 prizes, let me just get the pseudocode out once. We can just discuss that. It was week 3, 3.4 lecture, I think, right? One second.
It's 3.8, I think.
3.8.
Yeah.
Yeah, correct. 3.8. Okay, I got it. Okay, can you see?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So just quickly, let's recap. What is 3 prizes problem? What are the 3 main things that we need to take care of? 3 criteria to distribute the prizes. First criteria is what? Based on total marks. Top 3 total marks in class. Correct? Second is at least among top 3 in one subject. And what is the third criteria? You tell me.
They should be of
At
different
least one
genders.
of them should be boy or girl.
At least one boy, at least one girl, right?
Yes,
At
ma'am.
least one boy and one girl. These are the 3 criteria. Now, let's see this entire code. So, what are the things that we need to calculate here? First, I need to know what are the top 3 marks in every subject, right? What is subject topper? This function that we wrote, subject topper, what is this giving me? What is subject topper giving me? Anyone
It's
remembers?
returning
It's
true or
rating
false
the
whether the
maximum.
mark is in top 3 or not.
Right. So here, this is the subject topper function, right? Or procedure. What is it doing? It takes a card as an argument. It takes the maths marks, physics marks, and chemistry marks. Okay. So what is M mark, P mark, C mark? What are these storing? In this
Maximum
part, you can see
of maximum mark.
Third maximum mark.
third highest. Correct. So M mark, P mark, C mark. What did we see? That if a person scores third highest or greater than the third highest in a subject, that means that person is automatically a topper in that subject, right? Third highest or greater than third highest. So we are going to compare the person's marks with the third highest in every subject. If his marks in any subject is greater than equal to third highest in that subject, then this procedure will return true. Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
I can say that the person is a subject topper in at least one subject, right? So subject topper is that procedure. It is going to return true if the person is among the top 3 in any subject. Okay. That can be also more than one. It is at least one. So that person can be a topper in 2 subjects also. Okay, but at least one. So in the main program, what we are doing, see, we have first 3 variables. Okay, we have max, second max, third max. Why do we have these? Max, second max, third max?
Because we want top 3 marks.
In total, right? Top 3 total marks. Because subject wise, we are already finding using subject topper. What was the first condition? What was the first criteria? That the person must have scored among the top 3 total marks in class also, right?
Yes, ma'am.
See, first criteria is based on total marks. So if I want to give the prize to a person, that person must have scored among the top 3 total marks in class. So to compare that, we have three variables: max, second max, third max. This will give us what? The three total highest marks, top three total highest marks. Next, we have max ID, second max ID, third max ID. Why are these all initialized to -1? See, these are supposed to store IDs, right? ID of a student. Like if I have a topper in a certain
Starts
subject, or if
from
I,
0. ID
To
starts
the
from
avoid
0
ID,
confusion with IDs.
right? So some person already has the ID 0. So we cannot start with that. So we are going to start with a value that is not anyone's actual ID number. So we start with -1. Okay. Why are we having these variables? Because we want to know who are these students who have scored the top marks. So as we are updating first max, second max, third max, every time we are going to update the max IDs along with them, right? If I find a person who has scored a greater third highest than the current third highest, while we are running, this loop, this while loop. So when we run this while loop, we saw that for every card we are going to make these comparisons, right? These three possibilities we are going to check. So every time a variable gets updated, the corresponding ID also has to be updated. Remember, see, third max with third max ID. Here third max ID, second max ID. So always the ID has to keep updating. Okay, now one more question. I told you that there are three possibilities, right? When we are trying to find the first three highest marks in any subject or total wise also. So if I have to update just third max in some possibility, like this possibility, I just have to update third max. So if third max is updated, is there any need to update second max or the max?
No.
Oh, ma'am.
But if max is updated, then do I need to update second max, third max mandatorily,
Yes, ma'am.
right? Because then
Yes,
the
ma'am.
previous max becomes the second max and the previous second max becomes the third max. Okay. Next is these three variables: maths 3, physics 3, chemistry 3. They are doing what? Top 3 marks. What is top 3 marks procedure giving us? Anyone remembers what was it returning, this procedure?
It is giving
First
top 3
one,
marks
second
as
one,
subject toppers.
mark of max.
See, maths 3 is a single variable. It can store only one value. So top 3 marks procedure can only return one value. What is that value?
Uh, Third highest marks.
Third highest marks in math. Because we know that knowing third highest is enough to know if a person is among the top 3 or not. Right? So those third highest marks from each of the subjects are being stored in maths 3, physics 3, and chemistry 3. Now, when we come to the actual iteration part, while pile 1 has more cards, now we are going through the pile. Okay. So we pick a card and we run that, we call this subject topper. Look, this is one example of calling a procedure without storing it into a variable. I'm calling this procedure in this if statement, but am I storing the return value somewhere?
No, ma'am.
No, because this will return true. But that true is already getting checked out inside this if statement. So I don't need to store it in another variable. Okay. This is what I was talking about. Now, if a person is a subject topper, that is, I compared his marks in all three subjects with the third highest in those subjects. If he has scored third highest or greater than third highest in any of the subject, I know he's a subject topper. So one of my criteria is fulfilled. Okay. If this criteria is fulfilled, then only I will move on to this nested if. Okay. Now inside the nested if, we are checking this whole part. Okay. This and this entire part. This is to check if the person is among the top 3 based on total marks in class. Understood? That is the top 3 total marks. I know he's a subject topper, but he might not be having total marks that is among top 3, right? This is possible. Let's say some person scored 100 in math. So he's a subject topper in math, but his overall total is say 150. Okay. So this person is not among top 3 in the entire class based on total marks, but he's a subject topper in math. Okay, so if he is a subject topper in math, then is this subject topper, this procedure call, it will return true or false?
It will return true because he is a subject topper.
In at least one subject. So this will return true. So next my job is to check whether this person also has a total mark which is among the top 3 total marks in the class. So for that we are going to use this whole block of code. Okay. So one possibility is that that person's total is even higher than the max. Okay. So see, we have these 3 variables initialized: max, second max, third max, which are initially 0. Okay. So what are the 3 possibilities? That either the person has scored greater than whatever is the max. If it is greater than the max, then I'm going to update the value of max, second max, third max. Correct? What is the second possibility? That that person's total lies between second max and max. That he has scored less than the max, but he has scored greater than the second max. If this is the possibility, then what are the 2 variables I'm going to change? Update. Forget about ID. Just say first max, second max, third max. If the
Second
total
max
lies
and
between
third max.
second max and third max, which one will I update first, third or second?
Third max.
Why third?
Because if we update second max first, then the value would be discarded.
Then that value is lost, right? So I need that value for third max. So first third max is updated, then second max. Now, if what is the third possibility? That the total lies between second max and third max. Okay. If it lies between second max and third max, then what do you need to update?
We will update third max.
Only third max. There is another possibility that, like, after you found all the maximums, okay, first max, second max, third max. So if I pick a card now and I just see that it is not among any of these, it is less than third max, then do I need to update anything?
No.
No. So there are only 3 possibilities where I am going to update the variables. One is this, that is greater than max. One is between max and second max. One is between second max and third max. So at the end of execution of this while loop, this while, what is first max storing? Or the just max? What is max storing at the end after I've gone through the entire pile?
Yes. Of,
What is
of
max storing?
maximum in the first, let's say maximum in the max mark,
Maximum total mark in class.
or in max 3.
See, what am I comparing with? X dot total, not with subject wise. Subject wise, I have already checked in subject topper. Here I'm comparing with the total mark. So I'm asking that
Okay.
after the execution of this while loop, what will max, second max, and third max store? Anyone?
Second total, sorry, yeah, second total and third total.
So total top 3 marks,
Yes, ma'am.
right? Top 3 total marks in class. So all the criteria I am now checking except for the gender one. The first 2 criteria I'm checking. Is this code clear? Everyone, this whole code? Any part you're not understanding, ask. Okay. So if this is done, okay, if this is done, then what is the last condition that is left? That one has to be a boy, one has to be a girl. If it so happens that all boys are there, at the end of execution, I find that the 3 person I can give the prizes to are all boys. Then what do I do?
Then we will take that topper in subject topper in boys.
We will take what?
Subject topper in boys.
Is that so? See, I already told you this thing that if I have the same gender people who are getting the 3 prizes, okay, at the end of execution, then we will take the third highest person. Okay, the person in the third place. Someone is in the first place, someone is in the second place, someone is in the third place, right? 3 prizes. So the person who is in the third place, I'm going to discard that person. And I'm going to run this exact procedure all over again until I find a person in the third place who is of a different gender. Correct? Does anyone remember this part? That I have to discard the third person? after distributing the price, if I see that all are of same genders, then I have to discard the third person and run the three prices problem again until I get a different person in that place, third place. Yes, no, anything?
Ma'am, it's little confusing for me at this point.
Which part? Tell me. Yeah, which part?
If all the subject, if all the toppers are gender,
Your voice is cutting off.
I said if all the toppers are from same gender, then what do we have to do? It is a little bit confusing for me here from here.
See, yeah, let's say all toppers are from the same gender. Okay, so some person is in first place, some is in second place, and one person is in third place. Correct? But all are boys. Okay, for example. So at this point, to satisfy that third boundary condition, that there should be at least one girl in here. So who will I reject now? I will reject the third boy who got the third place prize. Okay, I will reject that card. That is, I won't take that person into the competition. This is not a fair means, but this is what this problem we are doing. Okay. So we will reject that person's card and we will run the entire three prizes problem again until in third place I get a girl. If still I get one more boy after running the entire procedure for the second time, I will again discard that card and run it again till I get a girl.
So on the first prizes, so at least one boy and at least one girl should be present. Am I right, ma'am?
Correct. Yeah. That's the boundary condition.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
So even if there are all three girls, then also you have to reject the girl in the third place and run the procedure again and again until I find a boy in third place. Okay. So this is okay, right? Three prizes problem. Any other confusion here? Look, the main thing I would say is that in this problem, go through each of the procedures separately. Okay, like this top 3 marks procedure, this subject topper procedure, go through these procedures. This problem is a big problem. It is given to you so that you understand the component procedures, because when the questions come in your exam, obviously we won't give you this huge of a problem. We'll give you a function, a singular function or a singular procedure, and you have to identify what that procedure is doing. So if you're comfortable with this type of code, then it will be easier for you to see a smaller code there. Okay. So should we go to questions now? Okay, everyone is okay with that. Yeah, let's solve this one. Okay, so there are about 15 questions here, 14, 15 questions. Just 1 second, let me. Okay, let's start with this. Can you see the screen? Is the question visible, everyone?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
Okay. Read the code. The following pseudocode is executed using the words dataset. What will count represent at end of execution? What is words dataset storing? Anyone? First tell me what is words dataset storing. Later you will read the code.
Parts of speech, did.
So every card has what information in it? A single word. What is the
Yes,
part of
ma'am.
speech? What is the letter count? And some sequence number, correct? So this question is asking that after reading the pseudocode, you have to know what is count representing at the end of execution. So I'll give, now it is 7:17, right? I'll give you 2 minutes. So 7:19, within that you uh, solve this. Then at 7:19, I'll ask everyone, then you give the answer, okay? No one will give the answer before that. Please solve this, everyone.
Ma'am? Ma'am?
Yeah. Yeah.
Ma'am, I have a confusion like after X letter count is greater than or equal to 2. After that, if bracket flag, what does that mean?
If flag means when will you enter that if flag's value is true. If flag is storing true value, then you enter if. If flag is false, then you don't enter if. That means you will increment count when flag is true.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. So if so in any iteration, if bracket and like in if bracket B is given, so B has to be true.
Yeah. And always if there is a variable given after if, just a variable, then that variable must have true value. Okay.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
That's the question. One second. Ma'am? Hello? Ma'am? Ma'am?
Hello. Yeah. Now am I audible?
Yes,
Ma'am,
ma'am.
now you are audible.
Yes. So now let's give me the answer.
Your question?
See the option. Yeah.
Number
Okay.
of adjective is less than or equal to 2
See,
letter
these are
count.
the options. Just tell me the option number.
A, ma'am.
Option C.
Option C. Okay. So number of words which are adjectives or have at most 2 letters or both. Is everyone agreeing with this? Anyone who didn't understand?
Ma'am, I thought it was option A.
Okay, so you thought it was option A. I'm not saying which one is the correct, I'm just asking. So A and C are the two contenders. Any others got any other option?
I think
Now
also
let's, yeah, A. Okay, you're saying A. So let's solve the code. See. So first, there is a variable called count, okay, which is assigned the value 0. So while table 1 has more rows, so iteration begins here, ends here. First flag is initialized, flag is assigned the value false. This means what? Every time I enter the iteration, flag will be set to false. Yes. Now read the first row. Now you read the first card. If part of speech of that card is adjective, if that is a card containing an adjective type of word, then flag will be set to true. Okay. Next, if is doing what? Checking the letter count. If the letter count of the card that I just picked is less than equal to 2, less than equal to means what? At most 2. So what can be the letter count? 0, 1, 2. 0 it cannot be because obviously some word is present. So 1 or 2. Okay, not more than 2. If this is true, then flag will be set to true. Then in the third if, it is just written if flag. So at this point, if flag's value is true, if flag is assigned the value true, then count will be incremented. So now see, there are two things that can happen here. First thing is that flag is set to false initially. Now let's say I got a card which is of an adjective type of word. So flag is set to true here. But that card, let's say, has a letter count of 4. Okay. Then is this option, is this satisfying this second if the letter count is 4?
No.
So if it is not, then I will not enter this block, right? But what is flag at this point? True. So if I go to the next if, then will count be incremented?
Yes.
So count will be incremented even if one of these satisfy, right? Now let's say I have a next card I pick, I say that it is a noun type of part of speech is noun type of a word. So then here I won't enter this if, but let's say the letter count is 1 or 2. Then this condition is satisfied. So I will enter this if and set flag to true. So if any of these if conditions satisfy, that is either it is an adjective or it has a letter count less than equal to 2, or even if both are true, then only count is incremented. Okay, so what now look at the options. So option A is saying number of words which are adjective and have at least 2 letters. Is and correct? Is it always necessary for both the conditions to be correct in order for count to be incremented?
No, ma'am.
No.
Any of them, or even if it is both are true, then also it is incremented, right?
Yes.
So which option? Number C. Okay, number of words which are adjective or have at most 2 letters or both. So these are very basic questions. Okay, these are the questions where you should not at all get these wrong. Okay, because these are scoring questions. So be careful. This will be and when. If I put this if inside a nest, like if this if was nested within this if, and then only flag was set to true. If I changed this piece of code to this, X part of speech equal to adjective. Okay, then the if block begins. Now inside this I write and X letter count less than equal to 2. Then here I write flag true. Now when will I increment count? When both conditions are satisfying, right? For this, option A will be correct. Understood?
Yes, ma'am.
Because here flag is going to be set to true only when both are correct. Okay. See the next question. Okay, I'll just solve it from now on. So here it is saying following pseudocode is executed using library dataset. What will A represent at the end of execution? This is a very straightforward question. So first you try. Okay, I'll give you 2 minutes. It is 7:24 at 7:26. Everyone should give me an answer. Okay. Vicky Thakur, you have raised a hand. Do you have a question?
Ma'am, can you solve week 4 last question graded assignment?
Okay, after solving this, can I take that? Okay, at the end.
Yes, ma'am. No problem. Yes, thank you.
Okay. Give me the answer. I'll give you option. See. Look at the option. Just tell me the option number. D.
D.
Option B.
Everyone agrees? Anyone got another answer? I have got option D. D. Number of books that are written by Kalam or in English or both. So B and D you are saying, right? Let's see. See. So first of all, I got the mistake you are making. Okay. Look very clearly. A and count are initialized only once. Okay. Outside of the loop. So these values will change and get updated in the loop, but they will never be initialized to 0 again once we enter the loop. Clear? So first we enter the loop, we pick up a card. This is based on library dataset. That means information about books and authors. Okay. So read the first card. Now before checking any condition, we are updating count. So at the end of this curly braces here, what will count store at the end of all the iterations?
Number of books.
Number of books.
Number of cards in the dataset basically, right? Yes, number of books you can say. Okay. Next, what is the condition? If the book that I picked, this X, if the author is not Kalam and it is not in English, that is both of these conditions are saying not Kalam, not in English, and both have to be satisfied because joined by and. Then we are going to increment A. So at the end of iterations, all iterations, what is A storing?
Without book.
The book which is not belong to the author column, and it should not be English
In English.
specifically.
So number of books which are not in English and not written by Kalam, right? At the end of
Yes, ma'am.
iterations, here we are storing inside A count minus A. That means total number of cards minus the number, that is total number of books minus the number of books that are written by Kalam and are in English. I'm sorry, not written by Kalam and are not in English. Okay. So what remains? Now look at the option. First one is saying number of books written by author Kalam in English.
No.
Is that true?
Yes, ma'am. It's option A.
No, ma'am.
No.
No, ma'am.
This is saying number of books written by author Kalam in English. So if I have a book which is written by Kalam but in Hindi, then that book will be present in A or not?
No.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Why no?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
It will be present. See,
Yes, ma'am.
it is violating one of the conditions. It is in Hindi, right? So obviously it will be part of the larger set from which I am subtracting A. Okay, look, let's understand this with a better example. Okay. So number of books written by author Kalam in English. What are we taking out? A is containing all such books that are written by Kalam and in English. I'm sorry, A is not by Kalam and not in English. Okay. So what if there is a book by Kalam and it is in English? So that will be part of this count, right? Count has the entire data set. From it, I am taking out all such books which are not by Kalam and not in English. So let's say there is some book by some author XYZ in Hindi. Okay. So this will be present in A after I subtract. Yes or no?
Yes.
Everyone, what do you think?
Yes, ma'am.
Just take this book and put it in the condition here. Author, not Kalam, correct? Language, not English, correct? So it will be part of A, it won't be part of count, like it won't be part of the final A after I subtract it out. It will be part of A here, right? Because it is satisfying both the conditions. Do you understand? Look, if I have a book, okay, there is one book which is written by author XYZ and it is in Hindi language. How to know if that book will be part of this final A or not? So just put it in this if condition. Is the condition satisfying? Just tell me
Yes.
this much. Is the condition satisfying?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So I will increment A here, right? Now if I have a book which is written by Kalam and in Hindi, then what will happen? Again, put it in this condition. Is it satisfying?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it? Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
How is it satisfying? It is written by Kalam. This is broken. There is an and. You have to satisfy both conditions. I think people are confused in this question. Look.
You're quite
This, forget
okay,
about
ma'am.
this line. Okay, forget about this line. Just let's talk about this much. So here this A is storing what? Let's first say this. What is this A storing? Number of books. Okay. Number of books that are not by Kalam and not in English. Okay. Clear? Everyone agrees up to this much? Yes, no, anything. See, online class already, this is very hard for me to understand who is understanding, who is not. Okay, so when I ask if you're understanding yes or no, just give an answer. Okay. Is this much clear? Number of books that are not by Kalam, not in English. This is getting stored here. Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
So this set, I have to take out from the entire set of books. So everything else will be present, right? Everything other than this. So if there are books which are by Kalam but in Hindi, they will be present in the final A. If there are books which are not by Kalam but in English, those will also be present here. Any of the condition, if it is violating, then it is going to be present in the final result. See, the answer is this one. Number of books that are written by Kalam or in English or both. So if I have a book, which is like I said here, Kalam but in Hindi. So written by Kalam but in Hindi. So it is not satisfying this if, right? So it is not part of this A. So it will be part of the final A since I'm subtracting this A from count. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
So it can be that either it is written by Kalam or it is written in English or both are true. That is written by Kalam and in English. So all such books will be represented by A at the end of execution. Now tell me, just raise your hands who didn't understand.
Ma'am, this type of question was already discussed in previous session.
It was discussed, right? Then why
Yes.
are people still giving wrong answers? This is not okay. See, understand the concept first. First, go to the, just do the code step by step. First, go to this part. Just evaluate what is A inside the iteration. What is it representing? Then at the end, you come here. Okay. Take this question. Now, since we don't have much time, I'm just going to solve it now. Okay. The given pseudocode is executed using words dataset again. Assume that v count x returns the number of vowels in x word. What will b represent at the end of execution? So v count x is what? It is a procedure which returns number of vowels in a word x. Okay. Or whatever word is stored in x card. So first we have initialization of variables. Sum t is assigned value 0, count is assigned 0, b is also assigned 0. Then we go to the iteration part. So pile 1 has more cards. Read the top card x from pile 1. Okay, so one card I picked. Now that card from words dataset, so that card has some word written on it, right? Now if v count x, so I'm calling the procedure v count x, which I know gives the number of vowels in x word. Let's say the word I picked is U. How many vowels? 2. So 2 will come here. Is 2 greater than equal to 1? Yes. So you enter this block of code. Sum t equals to sum of t plus x dot letter count. So what is the letter count of U? What is the letter count of this? 3.
Okay.
Right. So just add 3 to sum t. And count t is increased by 1 also. So at the end of this entire iteration, this entire while loop, what is sum of t storing? Sum t, what is this variable storing at the end of iteration? All the iterations?
Uh, uh, Total number of letters in the word dataset.
See,
I mean, which is
it
a
will
verb. Which
store.
is a verb.
You have to check this condition, right? So sum of t is going to store the sum of letter counts of all such words which have one or more vowels in them. Do you agree, everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Because the condition is what? Greater than equal to 1. So it has to be at least 1 or more than 1. So at least 1. Right? So sum of letter counts of all such words which have 1 or more vowels in them. What is count of t storing? Again, number of. What is count storing?
Words, a number of words which have at least one vowels.
Number of words with at least one vowel.
Yes, ma'am.
right? So if I have
Yes,
these two things, then what is this giving? What is B giving? Sum of T by count of T.
Average of the
Average what?
average of the number.
It is average letter count, isn't it? Sum T is storing what? Sum of letter count. So if you divide the sum of letter count by number of cards, that will give you average letter count.
Yes, ma'am.
So average letter count of what kind of words? See. Now you see the options and tell me which one is correct.
Option C, ma'am.
Option C.
Option C. Average
ma'am.
letter count of words containing at least one vowel in the dataset. Okay, this question is clear for everyone?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Now solve this. Following pseudocode is now executed using shopping bills dataset. Okay, what will C represent at the end? Let's solve again step by step. A, B, C are initialized, all assigned 0. Okay. Now, there is a nested while here. That means nested iteration. So some type of comparison must be there between two items. This much we can tell. So outer while is doing what? Picking the top card from pile 1. Then while card X has more items. So now what it is doing? See, this iteration is doing what? This card X, it is iterating through all the items in card X that we picked in the outer iteration. So for every card that we pick in outer iteration, we are going to go through all the items of that card in using the inner iteration. So while card X has more items, let's say card X has 5 items in it. So how many times will the inner loop run for card X?
5 times.
5 times. So read an item Z from item list of card X. So let's say we read the first item. If the cost of that item is greater than A, then A will be assigned the cost. B will be assigned the quantity. D is doing what? A by B. So cost by quantity gives what? Cost by quantity gives what? Total cost by quantity. Cost per unit.
Per unit.
Right? Per unit cost of that item. Now there is one more if. If D greater than C, then C equals to D. So okay, we'll come to this later. Let's do up to this now. So let's say I have 5 items. A1, B1, C1, D1, E1. Okay, this is in card X. I have these 5 items. And the cost, let's say I have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Okay. And the quantity is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's say this is the card. Okay. So this card I picked in outer iteration. Now inner iteration. First item I will pick is A1. So Z is what? A1. Read an item Z from item list. This is the item list. So A1 item I picked. Initially A is 0, right? For the first card that I picked. So is the cost greater than A? This is the cost. Just say yes or no. Is the cost greater than A? The cost is 10, right? What is A initially? 0. So it is greater than A. So I will enter this if. So A equals to Z dot cost. So at this point, what is A having? What is the value of A? Am I
10.
not audible? Okay. 10. What is the value of B?
2. No, 1, 1, 1.
1. What is the value of D? A by B. So 10 only.
Only.
Okay. Next it is saying if D greater than C, then C will be assigned the value of D. C is initially what? 0. So D is 10. So is 10 greater than 0? Yes. So C will be assigned what value now? 10. Understood? Now remove Z from item list. So now I'm removing this row. It is done. Next iteration inside this inner loop. B1 is the item I'm picking. Okay. What is the cost? 20. Is this cost greater than what is stored in A currently?
Yes.
So A will be what? New value of A? 20. What is the
20.
quantity? 2. New value of D is what? A by B. So again 10.
10.
Now it is asking if D is greater than C. So C was already 10. D is again 10. So do I need to change C? No. Because 10 is not greater than 10. So the condition is not valid here. So C will remain 10. So now you remove this second row also. Now come to the third row. Again 30 greater than 20. So A becomes 30 now. Quantity 3. But we will see that for this set that I gave you, C will remain 10, right? For every iteration in this. Correct? Because cost by quantity, that is what D is storing, and cost by quantity is same for every one of these 10 by 1, 20 by 2, 30 by 3, all are same, right? This is just an example card. It won't be like this. But for this card, is it true or not? That D will always be 10,
Yes, ma'am.
right? So after I go through all the items in this item list, okay, after I go through this last item, what is A going to be storing? 50.
50.
Yeah, ma'am.
B is storing 5.
Ma'am.
D is
Excuse me,
storing,
ma'am.
yeah,
Excuse me, ma'am.
yeah. Tell me, what's the issue?
Oh, 1 second, can you stop the recording? I just want to say something.
I cannot stop the recording. Actually, I'm not doing
Yes,
that. That
ma'am.
is
It's
done by.
really it's a sensitive issue, ma'am. I can't tolerate this.
Uh, you can tell me what is the issue. Tell me.
Student, why some people, I don't know why, it's a revision section, but someone is harassing some female person. So what's going on here, ma'am? I don't get it.
Like in the chat.
Yes, ma'am. It's
I
privately, not to me or to one person. If you need, you can check, ma'am. Unnecessarily, he's talking. I can't bear this. One of my friend is telling to me.
Okay, can you do just one thing, since I cannot control the recording or anything right now? So you do one thing. You know my email ID, right?
Ma'am,
Okay, I'll write my email
video
ID
proof,
in the
ma'am.
chat box. Just give me the screenshot or anything that you have. Okay, send it into my email with the name of the
Okay, ma'am.
both the person. Okay, the one who is writing the
Okay,
message
ma'am.
and to who is writing. Just send me the screenshot. I'm sending my mail ID in the chat box. Okay.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. So this thing I have told you in the first class that last term also some people were doing this. These sessions are for your own good, right? If you think that just going through the videos, just going through the week by lectures, you can understand, you can solve the problems, very good for you. No need to join the session. But if you are joining, please don't disturb the others who are present, okay? Who actually want to get some help from this session. This is a request to everyone. And whoever did this, please send me their detail. I sent my email ID, okay? All right.
Okay, ma'am.
So, yeah. Now let's get back to this. So at the end, I said A will store 50, B will store 5, D will store 10. Okay. Now when I go to the next card, so this inner iteration is over, right? So I will move it to pile 2. This entire card X is now moved to a separate pile. And I will pick another card from here. From pile 1, I'll pick one more card and again repeat the same process. Now tell me, when I repeat this process for the second card, what will be the initial values of A, B, and D? For the second card, when I do this, what will be the initial value of A and B? Just tell me for A and B. Anyone?
20 and
No. See, this first card, all the items I've gone
Ma'am,
through.
can you
Okay.
please repeat the question?
Yeah, my question is that for the first card, I've gone through all the items, right? And I've updated A, B, C, whatever was needed, right? So now if I want to pick a second card from the pile and again repeat the procedure for all the items in that card. Okay. So initially, what is A and B storing? after the first card is done? What are the values stored in A and B based on this data?
Cost of the item and the quantity.
So item having the maximum cost, right?
30, I guess. 30 and 3.
See, what is this condition? Z cost greater than A. That means in that first card, whichever item was storing the maximum cost, having the maximum cost, his cost will be stored, right? If I take a better example, see. And this was very generic actually, because this you can just look at and understand what is happening. Let's take a trickier example, like if there are 4 items or 3 items, let's not waste time. If there are 3 items, A1, okay, whose cost is, let's say, 30, quantity is, let's say, 2, okay. B1 cost is 60, quantity is, let's say, 3. C1 cost is 50, quantity is again 2. Okay, for this set, let's do it. So initially A, B, C are 0. What is the first item? What is the cost? 30. 30 greater than 0, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So A is storing 30. What is the quantity?
2.
2. What is D going to store?
15.
30 by 2, 15. C was initially also 0. So is 15 greater than 0? Yes.
Yes.
So C is storing what?
15.
Okay. Now come to the, now I have done this for the first item. So remove Z. That means this is removed. Now come to the second item. Cost is 60. So is the 60 cost greater than what is stored in A currently?
Yes.
So A is updated to 60. B is updated to 3.
3.
This quantity. D is updated to what?
20.
D.
C. Do I need to update C?
Yes.
So C is also updated to 20. So remove this item now. Now come to the final item. What is the cost? 50. What is the current cost stored in A? 60. Do I need, is this condition satisfying?
No.
No. So nothing, none of this will be done because this condition is not satisfying. So at the end of execution of the first iteration, first inner iteration, what happened? A is storing 60, B is storing 3, D is storing 20, C is storing 20. So what is A representing? The item with the maximum cost, right? In that card. Yes or no?
Yes.
And the quantity of that item? These are the things stored. So after I do the same thing for all the cards in the pile, what is A going to store? The item that is having the maximum cost among all cards, right?
Yes.
Now see the
Ma'am,
options.
hello.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, ma'am. I just sent you the message, but another person also facing the same issue. So,
This is the
why
only
you are?
like one person, right, who is doing this?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that person's name and all you mailed it to me.
Daughter. Now he left the meeting, ma'am. His name is in just a daughter. I don't know, daughter dash.
Okay, but we will have the attendance of this now, so I think we can know the email ID.
I just sent you the mail, ma'am.
Yeah. See, these things
Sorry to
actually,
interrupt, ma'am.
yeah, no problem. This is obviously something that is a serious issue. I can only ask you not to do this, but since people are still doing this, so obviously I will submit this to the people who are going to find out who is this person. And like if they are not even supposed to attend this class, then we have to block this ID. Or otherwise, other actions will be taken if they are actually a student. Okay.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Yeah, no issue. See, now look at the options. So which one is the correct answer? Our question is asking what will C represent at the end of execution? So C is storing what? D is A by B. And
Highest price
every
of the
time, yeah, Tell me which one?
Is price of an item.
Per unit. Right?
Yes, ma'am.
See, B is the answer. So C is storing highest price per unit because D is what? D is price per unit. And every time that D exceeds the previous D, then we are updating C. So at the end of execution, C is going to store the maximum per unit cost, right? Highest price of an item per unit in the data set. Is this question clear for everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Okay. Now let's do this one. So the following pseudocode is executed using again words dataset. What will A represent at the end of execution? Okay. So A is initially 0. While table 1 has more rows, let's pick the first row from table 1. So I equals to 1. After that, I equals to 1, B equals to 0. Okay. Now we have a nested iteration, nested while. I less than equal to x dot letter count. Okay. If ith letter of x word is a vowel, then B is incremented. Okay. And then I is again incremented outside of the if. Then we go for the next iteration. Let's say I have one word, I have one card that I have picked. Okay. One card I have picked that is, let's say, saying the word now. N-O-W. Okay. For this card, just do this with me. So initially A is 0. Table 1 has more rows. Yes, I picked one card that is having the word now in it. Letter count 3, right? So for every card that I pick, I'm going to initialize variable I to 1 and B to 0, right? For every card I pick, do I need to initialize A to 0?
No.
Only I and B will be reinitialized, right? Then you go into the inner while. I less than equal to x dot letter count. So I is 1, letter count is 3. So 1 less than equal to 3. Correct? Satisfying? So I will
Yes.
go in the if statement. If ith letter of word is a vowel, ith letter I is 1, first letter N. Is it a vowel?
No.
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 So will I increment B? No. I will just increment I and go to the next letter. Next letter is O. Is it a vowel? Yes. So I will increment B. Again, increment I, go to the next letter. Next letter is W, which is also not a vowel. So B won't be incremented. So for the first card, only for the first card, after this inner while is done, what is B? What is the value of B?
1.
1, because there is only one vowel. How many times will this run? Until you have exceeded the letter count. So after this letter count reaches 3, then again when you do I equals to I plus 1, letter count becomes 4. Then in the next iteration, it will become 4 less than equal to 3, which is a invalid condition. So then this while loop is closing. Okay, for this card. Then you go to this line. If B is greater than 2, B is greater than 2 means if the card for which you just check, if that word has more than 2 vowels, then A is incremented. So for this word, now, will A be incremented?
No.
A doesn't have more than 2 vowels. A has only one vowel, so A is not incremented. This one has only one vowel, right? O. So B is 1. B is not greater than 2. So A is not incremented. Now pick the next card. Okay. Let's say there is another word. What can be a word with 3 vowels? Tell me. Let's just take any random word.
Stories.
Okay. Stories. Good. So if this is the next word, okay. For this word, quickly tell me what is the letter count? 7, right? This is from the outer iteration, remember. I am here. I picked one card, which is having the word stories. Letter count is 7. I is again set to 1, B is set to 0. While I less than equal to letter count. So I is 1 and letter count is 7. So 1 less than equal to 7, correct. Now check, is the first letter, is it a vowel?
No.
B is not incremented. I is incremented. Go to the next letter. T. Again, not a vowel. B is not incremented. So B will be incremented only in 3 cases. O, I, and E. Correct? So at the end of execution of this inner while, what is B having?
3.
3.
Only 3. Is 3 greater than 2? Yes. A is incremented. So what is A representing? All such words which have more than 2 vowels in them.
Yes.
Number of words with more than 2 vowels. So which option?
Words with at least 3 vowels.
At least 3 vowels. Any one has any different option? Why at least 3? Because greater than 2. That means it has to be 3 or more, right? So at least 3 vowels. This question clear, everyone, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now this is an MSQ. Now this is the type of question I was saying. Okay. I think this is based on sanity of data. See. Consider the player dataset given below that keeps track of runs stored by each player in the test matches held. Okay. So this is player ID, player name, trial, test series, World Cup. Okay. These are keeping track of runs scored by each player in the test matches, in all of these. Okay. So following pseudocode is executed using player dataset, a player can join a sports club if his runs are above 75 in trial, test series, and World Cup. So what is our condition for a player to join the sports club? He has to score above 75 in all 3 categories, trial, test, and World Cup. Now the variables A, B, and C store the number of players in gold striker, silver striker, and bronze striker clubs. So there are 3 clubs, gold striker, silver striker, and bronze striker. So the variables A, B, and C are storing the number of players in each club. Okay, based on this pseudocode. So check what is this pseudocode doing. First, what are the information we have? We have player ID, we have player name, and we have their runs in each of the 3 categories. So look at the pseudocode now. Initially, ABC are 0. ABC are keeping track of number of players in each of the 3 clubs. Okay. So while table 1 has more rows, read the first row. This table 1 is having data from where? That players table, right? So read the first player or the first row. If trial is 75, test series is 75, and World Cup is 75, that is all 3 conditions are true, then you will enter this loop. Sorry, not loop, this if block. Okay. Then match equals to max match. This is a procedure call. If this procedure call is getting assigned to a variable, that means what?
Calling a procedure.
That means this procedure is returning something, right? Since it is assigned to a variable, so the return value will be stored in the variable match. So let's see what is the procedure definition, max match. So it takes the card X or the row X, first row in table 1. This is the procedure definition. So max match Z. If Z dot trial is greater than test, that is if the person has scored higher runs in trial than in test series, then I will enter the nested if. Then I'll check if the test series run is greater than the World Cup run, then return trial, else return World Cup. So what does this mean? If trial runs are highest among all 3, then this will return trial. When will it return World Cup? When the inner if, this nested if, is wrong, right? It is not valid. So let's say some person scored 50 in trial, 50 runs, 40 in test series. So outer if is satisfied. Now come to the inner if. So let's say that person scored 60 in World Cup. So which one is the highest?
World Cup.
World Cup.
But that is violating this inner if, right? So I will go to the else part of it and return World Cup. Again, this else belong to this outer if. That is if the condition failed in the outer if only. Like if say someone scored 90 in test, but 70 in trial. Then this outer if fails. So come to the else part of it. If this fails, then you have to check this condition. This fails means I know that test series runs are greater than trial runs, right? This much I can tell. Only then this condition will fail. So next I have to check, is the test series run greater than World Cup run also? If so, then return test series, otherwise return World Cup. So in any case, whatever be the combination of runs, it will return for a single player. It will return the category in which that player has scored the highest runs. Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
This is clear for everyone? Anyone has any confusion? Okay. So this procedure max match is going to return what? The category in which a player has scored the maximum runs. Now, that will be stored in this match variable. So after this is done, for each player, we are going to now check if match is trial, then A is increased. If match is test series, then B is increased. If match is World Cup, then C is increased. So for any player in random, only one of these if statements will be valid, correct? Match will be storing only one thing, either trial or test series or World Cup, whichever category in which that player has scored the highest runs. So if a player has scored highest in test series, then which variable will be incremented?
B.
B. B belongs to which club? Silver Striker. So that means that person can go into the Silver Strikers club, right? Now, what is the question asking us? The question is, which club will be allotted to a player if he gets 167, 180 and 180 runs in trial, test series and World Cup? So which club? Let's check. 167 in trial and 180 in both test and World Cup. So now run these numbers in this max match procedure to find out which one will go as the return value. So first condition, this if trial 167, test 180. So is 167 greater than 180?
No.
So which else will I come here, right? So at this point, I know that test series runs are greater than trial runs, right? Next, you are checking, is test series greater than World Cup? So is 180 greater than 180?
No.
So what will be returned?
World Cup.
So this person can join. If World Cup is returned, then go to the main function here. So which one will be true? This if
C.
match equals to World Cup. C means which club? Bronze
Bronze.
Striker. So which is the answer?
E.
This. Is this question clear? Everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now based on the same, okay, only one question was from that data. Okay, it's already 8 past. So let's take that week 4 question first. Yeah, who asked that question? Week
Ma'am,
4,
me.
which one? Yeah, can you tell me which question it was? Yeah, Vicky,
Ma'am,
Thakur, which
ma'am.
question?
Question number 10, graded assignment.
Graded question 10. Okay. Can you see the screen?
Yes, ma'am, you can scroll down on last one.
Graded is the deadline over?
Yes, ma'am.
Wait, one second. Okay, 23 it was over, right? Last question. This one.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Let's decode this. So first A and B, these are from words dataset. What will A represent at the end? So A and B are 0 initially, P and Q are true and false respectively. So first card you pick. While table 1 has more rows, pick the first row. If the word in that first card is an adverb and P means P is true, right? Only if P is true, then both the conditions will be true. And I can enter this if.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
initially what is P? P is true,
Yes.
right? So if the first card I pick is also an adverb, so adverb and true, that means I can enter here and set P to false and Q to true.
Yes.
Okay. But if this was not an adverb, then I will go to this else. If not Q.
Yes.
Q was initially false, not Q is true.
True. A is equal to 1.
Then you increment A. Okay.
Yes.
If now this whole part is under this while loop, right? See this. Okay, let me take a screenshot and paste it in Word. I can't write here.
No, it is under if part, na?
Just a second. Let me just quickly write this. Okay. You can see the word doc.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now let's write here. So this if opens here and closes here. This else opens here, closes here. This if opens here, closes here. This if also opens here, closes here. So where is this while closing? At the end. Okay. So we saw that if this is not an adverb, the first card is not an adverb, then we will go to this else. And then if not, Q will be obviously true for the first card because Q is false and A is incremented. Next, if again you will come to this if word ends with a full stop, then P is set to true, Q is set to false. Okay. What is our question? Our question is asking what will A represent at the end of execution? Right.
Yes, ma'am.
So let's solve this. So let's say I have a sentence which has a noun first. I'm just writing the part of speech. Okay. Let's say
Yes.
I have a sentence having 4 words. Okay. First is a noun. Second is an adjective. Third is an adverb. And fourth word is a noun again, let's say. Okay. And this is the last word. So it has a full stop after it. Okay. I have a random sentence with these 4 words. Okay. First one is noun. Second is adjective. Third is adverb. Fourth is noun. So if I follow this procedure, now for this sentence, let's run this procedure. So whenever you have this type of questions, and it's better to take an example. Okay. That will solve it faster. So A, B, 0, P, Q, true, false. So this is the first sentence. Read the first row,
Yes.
this sentence. If part of speech is adverb for the first word, is it adverb?
No.
It is noun. So where will I go?
Yes.
Else.
Yes.
If not Q. Q is initially
Yes.
false. So not Q, true.
Yes, ma'am.
A is 1 at this point. Fine.
Yes, ma'am.
Next, if X word ends with a full stop, does it end with full stop? First word? No. So P remains true, Q remains false. Correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Now you move this first word to table 2. Pick the next word.
Yes.
What is this? An adjective. So at this point,
Not.
what is P and Q? True and it was what it was initially? True and false.
Yes.
Right. We only executed this block of code.
Yes.
So P and Q are not changed. P is true, Q is false. So next part of speech is adverb, but no, this is adjective. So again, this is wrong. Come to the else
Yes.
part. Not Q is still true. So A
Yes.
will be again incremented. A is now 2. Is this ending with full stop? No. So again, move this to table 2,
File
go
2.
to the next iteration. Next word is this. So P is still true, Q is still false. So is this if
Yes.
now satisfying? Yes.
Yes.
Now P is set to false, Q is set to true.
Yes.
So if this if is satisfying, do I need to go to this else part? No.
No.
This is only if the if is not valid, then I come to else. So I will just go to the next if, that is this line.
Yes.
Right. This line is asking, is the word ending with a full stop? No.
No.
So at this point, after the third card is sent to table 2, P is what?
False.
False. Q is
Q is true.
true. And
True.
A is still 2.
True.
Okay, now I have to do the next word. So next word is noun. So if part
Yes.
speech adverb, so first one is again failing. It is a noun, right?
Yes.
And also P is false. So none of these are satisfying. Go to the else part. If not Q, is this satisfying? Q is true. So not Q is false. Will I increment
Not-
A? Will I increment A?
No. No, ma'am.
No, right? So come to the next if. If word ends with a full stop, is it ending with a full stop? Yes.
No. Yes. 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 Yes.
This is the last word, right? So it is ending with a full stop. So now you will enter this if. Set P to
Yes.
true. P is
Yes.
now again true. Q is now again false. So you tell me, in every sentence, okay, for every sentence, when will this block of code come into action? For only one word, which is the last word. Correct? So after the last word in every sentence, P and Q will be reset to true and false. Do you agree with this?
Yes.
Okay. Now what is A storing at the end of this sentence? 2.
2.
So basically, 2 is what? Number of words that come before the first adverb.
Yes.
Okay, so let's see if there is any such option given. Yeah, this one. See. What is A representing? Number of adverbs before the first adverb, number of words before the first adverb in every sentence, number of words before first adverb or full stop in every sentence, number of adjectives before the first adverb, or number of words before first adverb in every sentence. Which one?
Ma'am, if we are not putting any adjective before adverb, then it is counting the number of words, na, that is before the
Look,
first
it
adverb.
basically it doesn't care whether the words that is coming before the adverb are adjectives or not. We are not checking for that anywhere, right?
Yeah.
So obviously you can
So
tell that the options which are saying adjective, those are wrong options because there is nowhere we are checking for adjective.
yes. So
Okay.
we are checking the number of words before the
That
first
come before
adverb.
the first adverb in every
Okay.
sentence.
Every
Why
sentence.
every
Yes.
sentence it is saying? Because see, every iteration I told you at the end. Okay.
And
At
only
the
we are
end, what
resetting the
is
value.
we are resetting the value of P and Q. But A is what? Is A getting reset to 0 anywhere? See that?
No,
No.
no, no.
So A is containing number of words before first
Yes.
adverb in every sentence in the data set. Correct?
Yes. Yes. So
So this
this
is the
option
answer.
will,
Why is it given number of adjectives before first adverb?
yeah, same thing. Like I have marked this one, but when I saw the answer list, then I got like shocked that why it is showing number of adjectives, because we are not counting any adjectives.
No, adjectives are not even defined in this pseudocode. Like we are not having any condition separately for adjective.
Yeah, no, we are checking only for adverb.
And only for adverb, right? So I think this is a wrong answer. A represents number of words that are not adverbs before the first adverb. That is this right. This line is correct. This line that is given in the solution, A represents number of words that are not adverbs. So basically all number of words before the first adverb.
Yes.
So this answer is wrong. This option 5 should be the right answer. Okay. Is the score also given like this? Like what is your score in graded
Well,
if you...
in this graded assignment, there is one more question which will be wrong. And it's about face
Like
loss and
you got marks
pseudocode.
deducted for this question.
Yes, zero, ma'am.
Yeah, ma'am. It's detail.
Okay. Let
There is
me
another
ask you, sir, about this.
question, ma'am.
Yeah, which one?
I have posted it in your chat box. Can you please check it, ma'am?
Yeah, one second.
I will read.
Yeah, no, this is definitely a wrong question. This cannot be correct.
Yeah, I will repost it, ma'am. Can you please check it?
Yeah, one second.
Ma'am,
Yeah.
ma'am, I have a question.
Yeah.
Ma'am, in the previous question, you told the cricketers joining one or more clubs. There was the runs which were equal, like 180 greater than or greater than 180, right? But the same question was in graded assignment. But there it was the correct option was no, a student cannot join any club.
Then there must be some difference in the conditions. Either there is an equal to given or some difference must be there, because if this is the exact same question, then this is the answer. If you give me the question, I'll see it. Okay.
Ma'am, you can check it was the previous question from the question you just solved.
Okay, one second. But the answer for that is given as that only, which I told you. Okay, it's this one. Is this the one you posted? Is item. Someone said that they posted a question in chat box, right? It is this one. Is item soap? This one. Wait, let me share my screen.
No, ma'am, the
Yeah,
second
ma'am.
last
It is.
question.
Yeah,
Just
ma'am.
a second.
I think, ma'am, it is question number 5.
Question number 9, ma'am, just the above one.
This one.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'll come to this once. Okay, I'll come to this. Just tell me, someone else asked one thing before this. Question number 5. This one. This
Yes,
you're
it is
asking?
question number. I mean, this also,
Okay.
I think this option is wrong, I think.
Yeah, let me quickly solve this then. If the given pseudocode is based on shopping bills, frac stores ratio of number of customers who purchased both soap and face wash to the number of customers who purchased just face wash, right? So choose the correct code fragment to complete. Okay. This is pretty simple. So M count, B count, two variables. File 1, read the card. Here the code comes. Okay. Each item procedure is having what? So frac is B count by M count. So B count is definitely storing customers who purchased both soap and face wash, right? And M count is storing customers who purchased just face wash. Okay.
Yes.
So procedure is item is taking two things, Y and A. Okay. So C is false while card Y has more items. Read an item. If that item is A, then C is set to true. Remove Z from item list of Y. Okay. So what is that Y, right? Okay. So C will be true when Z item is equal to A. So what is this A when we are calling the procedure? So this missing code is basically where we are calling this is item procedure, right? See, what are the options? In this type of question, you have to go through all the options. So if is item X face wash, that means I picked a card X, okay. And I am passing the parameters X and face wash in is item procedure. So it will check between X and face wash now. So initially C is false while card has more items. So I will go through all the items in card X. And if for any item I find that face wash is present, right? Then C will be set to true. And at the end it will return true. If face wash is not present, okay, if face then C will return what? False. Is item will return false because C will remain false,
Yes.
right? Okay.
Yes.
So for first, if I'm checking for face wash and updating M count, what did we see? B count is what? B count is
Both
people
face
who have,
wash and
yeah, both face wash and soap. And M count is just face wash. So is item F face wash. if this returns true, that is, if there is face wash among one of the items in that person's card, then M count is increased by 1. Next, if it's checking if is item X soap also, that is, this is also true, then B count is increased. So if I do option 1, will it give me correct answer? So this second if is checking
No.
for what? Just soap. These are individually checking. They are not dependent on one another, right? So if I have, let's say, a person who has bought just face wash, for them M count is increasing. Okay. But is it checking
But
anywhere for person who has bought both face wash and soap? In that case, it should be a nested if, right? That face wash outer,
yes,
and then if that satisfies, then you check if there is someone, if that same person has bought soap also. So check this option. If is item out, so if he has bought soap, then B count is increased. Is this correct? B count should be increased when he has bought both face wash and soap. Just by checking for soap, you cannot increase B count. So this is wrong, right? Also here, see, if a person hasn't bought face wash but just soap in the first option, then also B count is increased. Correct, which is also wrong. B count is increased only when he has bought both. Option C is what? Is item face wash and is item soap. So it is saying only for people who have bought both. For them, both M count and B count are increasing. Is that true? M count is for people who have
no,
bought
no,
just face wash. So option D is remaining. So this has to be correct. If is item X face wash, that means if the person has bought face wash, I don't care whether he has bought soap or not. Okay, just face wash he has bought, so I am increasing M count. If is item, now nested if, that I know that this person has definitely bought face wash, now I am checking if he has bought soap also. If he has, then increase B count. So this is correct. B count is storing
y-
the count of such
yes,
customers who have bought both face wash and soap, and M count is storing only those customers who have bought face wash. They may or may not have bought soap. So this is correct option D. What is given in answer?
yes,
Oh, this is definitely wrong. No. Option D is correct.
yes, ma'am. It
It
is.
is given in the solution. See,
They have
option
given.
D is correct. Yeah, the accepted answer is wrong. I think it's wrongly configured. Okay, any other question did you see which was wrongly configured in this graded?
Ma'am, can you check question number 8?
Question 8. Yeah, this is the one the other person was also asking, na? That joining a club, maths, physics, chemistry. Okay.
It was asking
So,
for question number 9.
but this is based on the same data. Okay, I think so. Yeah, same data. So following pseudocode is executed using scores dataset. Student can join a club if his or her score is above the score mentioned. The variables M, P, and C store the number of students in each club. Okay. So there is some score which a person has to exceed in order to join a club. Okay. So initially M, P, C at 0. These are supposed to store number of people in each club. So while table 1 has more rows, you pick the first card of a student. This is based on scores dataset. So subject is a variable in which you are calling max subject X. This procedure, max subject X is doing what? See here, the definition is given line 16. If person has scored uh, greater marks in physics than in maths, okay, then you go to the nested if and check if that person has also scored greater in physics than in chemistry. That means that person has scored highest marks in chemistry. Then return chemistry. I'm sorry, that means this person has scored highest marks in physics, then return physics. Okay, and nested else is saying what? That if the person has scored greater in physics than maths, but greater in chemistry than physics, then what is his highest? Chemistry. So return that. And this line 25, this else, this is the else of this line 17 if. Okay. That means if the outer condition only fails, that the person has scored greater in maths than physics, then you come here and check if he has scored greater in maths than chemistry also. That means maths is his highest subject. Otherwise, chemistry is his highest subject. Okay, this is exactly like the previous question. So this max subject procedure is going to return what? The subject in which a person has scored maximum marks. Right.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes or no? Right. Then you come here. Again, come to line 5. After this subject variable is now storing what? The subject in which that particular person has scored the highest marks in. If subject is maths and for maths, the threshold is 95, that the person has to score greater than 95 in order to get in math. And his highest marks must be in math subject. Okay. So if subject is math and score is greater than 95, then that person can go to math club. If subject is physics, that the person has scored highest marks in physics and the marks is greater than 90, then they can join physics club. If person has scored highest in chemistry and marks is greater than 90 in chemistry, then they can join chemistry club. So can a student join 2 clubs at once? Is it possible?
No,
No, ma'am.
Because this procedure is only going to return one value, right? Either
one
maths
value
or
of
physics or chemistry. So only one of these will be true. Okay. And then again, you have to check if the threshold mark is correct. That is, if the person has scored greater than the threshold, only then you can increase the variable. Now, what is the question asking? Which club can a student join if he or she gets 92 marks in physics and 84 physics and maths, both 92 and 84 in chemistry? So, what is his highest subject? First, find out that. So, let's go to the first if.
right.
So physics is 92, maths is 92. Is 92 greater than 92? No. So come to the
No,
L's in line 25. Now check, is math mark greater than chemistry mark? 92 greater than 84? Yes.
Yes.
So return math. So we will consider that math is his highest subject. Now you go to the main question. If subject math, so this one is the first if will satisfy. And you have
Yes.
to check the next condition. Is the math mark scored by the student greater than 95? No.
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 It is 92. So this person cannot join math club or any other club. So the answer is what? Student cannot join any club. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
So this is okay. And what is the question she was asking is, when can a student join more than one club? So a student can never join more than one club because the subject this max subject procedure will only return the name of one subject. And the student only has possibility to join the club of that subject if he has scored greater than the threshold. So no person will join more than one club. Clear? Any other question?
Ma'am, when will this class will be held after this class? Ma'am? If it is like that.
Sorry, come again.
When this CT live session will be held after this class? Ma'am? I mean,
Tomorrow
tomorrow or
only
day.
you have one more session. Okay.
In my calendar, there is no CT session.
I
Ma'am.
don't
Next
know.
session
Is
will
it
be announced.
tomorrow or the next day? Tomorrow.
Ma'am,
Okay, let me check.
can I join
We have a
to
tomorrow
tomorrow's
session,
live
ma'am.
session with through this link, ma'am?
Tomorrow
Wait,
we
let
have
me
at
check.
6 to 8.
I have the schedule. I mean, revision session will happen. Just a second. Yeah. So for CT, tomorrow you have one more session. Okay.
At what time, ma'am?
6 to 8 or 8 to 10. I think it's 8 to
Ma'am,
10.
ma'am,
No,
can I
ma'am,
join?
it's 6 to 10.
I don't actually have the timing, but tomorrow there is one session.
Yeah, it's from 6 to 10. 6 to 8.
Ma'am,
6 to
can I
8 then.
join this session through this link only, ma'am? Tomorrow session through
You
this
can
link?
find the link in the calendar, no?
I don't have a complete CT sessions in calendar, ma'am. I'm facing a very trouble on that.
Others
I
can
have
see
mailed
the
to
session
support.
links. Is it
Yeah,
visible
ma'am.
for others? Can anyone tell me other than you? Can you see the
Yes,
session
ma'am.
links in the calendar?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
So who is having the
I
issue?
didn't
Can you
know.
tell me your name?
Ma'am, it's me, ma'am. It's Lokesh.
Okay,
Other
Lokesh,
than
can
the
you,
CT, other than
like for
CT,
all other
except all.
subjects you can see, right?
Yeah, ma'am. I can see all the subjects
Okay.
except CT. Ma'am.
So can you just try adding the calendar for CT one more time? Is it working or
Yeah,
have you
ma'am.
tried that?
I have tried it 2 to 3 times, ma'am, but it doesn't work. It shows Same, maybe.
Okay,
Same at the previous.
send me one mail and just write down what issue you're having. Okay, please
Yeah.
send me the mail. My mail ID is already given here. So if other people, if you are connected somewhere, can you please share the link with him if it's possible? Otherwise, I think I have the session link for tomorrow. I will paste it here in the chat box. Okay. One second.
I have posted the link.
Okay. Yeah, someone has posted. Yeah, tomorrow it is from 6 to 8. Yes, it is in my calendar. Okay, Lokesh, you can take the link from here now. Okay. And
Yeah,
just send me the mail and we'll fix the issue, whatever it is.
yeah, okay. I will give
All
a
right.
screenshot for the calendar now. I will send
Yeah,
mail
yeah.
you.
Okay. Sure.
Okay.
Okay. Then if you have any more doubts, you can ask anyone.
What will happen to those two questions?
I will tell Piyush sir about this, that those two are wrong. So we will probably give marks to everyone, or otherwise we will grade it out of, we will put them out of the grading. Okay. So those won't be considered for grading, either of these two things. Uh, okay. So if you don't have any more questions, then we can wrap up. All the best for your quiz one.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Ma'am,
Yeah.
will there be the all the 4 week content will be of same quantity in the quiz one, or more focus on week 3 and week
See,
4?
more focus on week 2, 3, 4. Okay. Week
Okay.
1 doesn't have much content. So 2, 3, 4, all are important. All right. Thank you. I'm closing it then.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. Thanks.
Ma'am,
Yes.
ma'am, will it be same for maths also? Like week 2, week 3, and week 4 will be more important than week 1 in maths.
See, other subjects I cannot tell. Okay, that depends on the content. So you ask the instructor for math.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you,
Okay.
ma'am.
Yeah. Thanks.
Ma'am, I have mailed you now.